Hey guys, welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast post-game show. Hope you guys are having a great Monday night. Before we get into today's podcast on YouTube, if you guys could come on in, hit that like button. It does help the YouTube algorithm to push out more Detroit Pistons content for Pistons fans just like yourself. And if you are an audio listener, make sure to give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. We're everywhere. Spotify, Apple, anywhere. So let's get into today's podcast, you guys. This post-game podcast. Pistons played the Blazers tonight. Getting into the first quarter, there was no S.R. Thompson tonight. He was out with illness. And this was a game where I was kind of nervous just because when you look at Portland, you look at the players that they have, like an Anthony Simons and a Shaedon Sharpe, two bucket getters at the end of the day. And I thought our perimeter defense without Asar would be kind of in trouble. And it looks like I was right because those guys were just getting anything they wanted. Even Denny Avdia had his moments tonight. I kind of felt like the defense in the first quarter was just non-existent. It seems like we were a little bit low energy, which, throughout the season has kind of been the case with the Pistons for the first 6 minutes. But what JB did is something that I think a lot of us have been talking about. We played Paul Reed. We played Ron Holland. About 2 minutes to go in the first quarter, and the energy started picking up. And I'm glad JB's a coach where if it's not working, he's not so stubborn where he won't go deeper on his bench. That's something that I do like about his rotations as a Detroit Pistons coach. Tobias Harris led all scorers in the first quarter with 10 points. And if you just kind of look at the box score with a lot of these veterans, man, like the vets have really stepped up since Jaden Ivey has been out due to injury. If we're just looking at the box score, Tobias Harris has 17 points. Tim Hardaway Jr., who we're probably going to be talking about a lot, had 26 points. Cade had 32 points. Jalen Durant, hell of a game, 14 points. 12 rebounds, 10 offensive rebounds from him. Just was crashing the offensive glass. Simone Fontecchio, first game back in a while, had 10 points. And I feel like Malik Beasley, he got the start. And the one shot that he made was probably the most crucial shot, to extend that Pistons lead. But to end the first quarter, the Blazers had a 5-point lead, 28-23. Going into the second quarter, I felt like the Pistons were just settling for threes, and that's what really allowed Portland to go on a 17-0 run. This second quarter, I don't think I've ever seen this. So the Blazers go on a 17-0 run, right? And you're thinking okay, maybe it's just not the Pistons' night. But the Pistons go on a 17-2 run, get themselves back within 10 points. It's so weird. I've never seen a quarter where a team goes on a 17-0 run and then the opposing team goes on a 17-point run. But the Pistons get it within 9. Portland led at the half 60-51. Coming out of halftime, I felt like Cade attack mode. Cade felt like, you know what? I just have to, put this team on my back. I got to get in my bag. And that's exactly what he did in the third quarter. And Chauncey Billups had to take multiple timeouts in the second half because the Blazers defense kind of felt like they were disengaged. They weren't as active as they were in the first quarter. And I felt like the Pistons really got that momentum. They went on a 14-2 run to really get this game close. And Simone Fontecchio hit some really big, crucial threes. But the end of the third quarter, it was 90-88. And the fourth quarter was exactly what I've labeled this team, you guys. The cardiac kids. You have chest pains watching this team because the games are so back and forth, entertaining. It felt like just a boxing match. The Blazers punched, but the Pistons punched harder. Blazers came out in the fourth quarter, went on a 7-0 run. They were leading 97-90. And then the Pistons went on an 8-0 run. They brought more energy. And I thought Ron Holland tonight really brought it defensively without Asar being out there. He was getting in the chest of Anthony Simons, getting in the chest of Denny Avdia, multiple Blazers players tonight. And Tim Hardaway Jr. just went nuclear in the fourth quarter. And I've told you guys before, Tim Hardaway Jr. is such a streaky player, but when he's hitting shots, like when he's in rhythm, when he's in his bag, he's one of the most dangerous players in the NBA. Like, and that might sound like a hot take, me being a Piston fan, but it's just the truth. Like the way he was just getting to his spots, mid-range three, putting the ball on the floor all night, I thought was really crucial for this team. You know, Malik Beasley probably hit the biggest three of the night. He went 1 out of 10. And like the fact that, you know, he struggled tonight, but, you know, THJ picked him up and Tobias had 17. I thought this was a really good win. Pistons extend their win streak to 4 games, putting them at 18-18 in 36 games. First time your Detroit Pistons have been 500 since the 2018-19 season when they went 41-41 under Dwayne Casey. That was the Blake Griffin era. And this team is on pace to win 40 games this year, you guys. Like, that's a real thing. Like, they are on pace to win 40 games if they keep this trajectory of winning. Wasn't the prettiest game. Was really sloppy defensively. But good teams find ways to turn it on and win. And we're starting to see this team learn how to win. I think the West Coast trip really just sparked something. They're just playing team basketball. You look at box scores most nights, you have multiple players scoring over 10 points. Cade Cunningham is playing like a top 15 player in the NBA, in my opinion. He or maybe even higher. Like he's just being that all-star that you need him to be. But I do want to get into some comments and questions to wrap this podcast up. See, we have 87 people watching live on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. We're just going to take a quick commercial break. And then after that, we'll answer any comments and questions you have about this Portland Trailblazers game and your Pistons being on a 4-game win streak and being 500 for the first time in a couple of years. So we'll be right back, you guys. Okay, guys, we're back after that quick break. Now, during that break, I did star a couple of your questions and comments as you guys are watching live on YouTube right now. This is the part of the podcast where I open it up. If you guys have any overall thoughts on the game, thoughts about the Detroit Pistons, maybe the upcoming schedule, floor is yours. We do have 8 questions we're going to get into. This one comes from Ronald McDonald, 1977. We are currently the 7th seed. Yeah, man, that's what happens when you keep winning basketball games. Like last time I checked the standings, it was a couple of days ago, they were the 9th seed. They're on a 4-game win streak. I believe they have the Brooklyn Nets next, which, Brooklyn is still a NBA team at the end of the day. You don't want to take them for granted. You don't want to have what Utah did to you. You have to bring energy. And I thought the second half of this game was a lot like the Charlotte game where, the first 2 quarters, The energy level wasn't really where you needed it to be, but you turned it on at halftime. And I hope that's not a trend of where this team is going. The slow starts, I think, is something that I know JB has touched on quite a few times. But at the end of the day, they're on a 4-game win streak, 18-18 through the first 36. And I think if you're a Piston fan, you're really pleased with where this team is headed. Got a comment from Cruza923. Tim Hardaway Jr. picked up the scoring slack from Beasley tonight. I want to say this. 36 games, I could maybe count 4 times Malik Beasley's had a bad game, which just shows you how consistent he's been throughout the season. Someone had left a comment saying, I think it was Red Baron, saying that, I had a feeling Beasley would struggle because he wasn't off the bench. And, that's to be expected. Malik's been a 6th man off the Pistons bench. And, inserting into the starting lineup is a change. Obviously, you're going up against starters versus, rotational bench guys. But overall, I did like just the defensive effort from him. Now, obviously, when you're going up against guys like a Shaedon Sharpe and an Anthony Simons, that's a really heavy task. But I thought he competed, had a couple of steals tonight or just deflections. But, overall, THJ just did his thing. And like when THJ is on, like he's a really fun basketball player to watch. I've told you that before, you guys. Like Tim Hardaway Jr., man, like when he's on a heater, man, like just give him the ball because he's probably gonna make it. I got a comment from Ace Boogie. Pistons are 500. I'm about to cry. Yeah, I feel you, man. Like it's been really rough being a Piston fan, especially like during the rebuild, because we've had like sub 20 win seasons. But what happens is you put some veterans, you put some role players on this basketball team, and it's looking like a competent team that could fight for a playoff spot. Like at the end of the day, I know we're 500, and some Pistons fans, like, you shouldn't be celebrating because you're 500. Like, you should be 500. You guys are a talented basketball team. But I think for the people that tune into every game, have watched this team, get shafted in the lottery, getting 5th pick after 5th pick, it's okay to be a little bit emotional, be so invested into this team, because we grew up watching this team just dominate the Eastern Conference for years. But I'm with you, Ace Boogie. I'm pretty emotional too. It's just good to have a competent basketball team that's competing each and every night, playing for each other. There's no me ball, there's no hero ball. It's just team basketball. And I think a lot of Pistons fans just really, they're so invested into this team. Like I see it in these post-game podcasts, you guys. Like when there's a win, there's about, 10, 15 comments before I even go live. Like you guys are just as invested as I am. And I love to see it. I love talking with you guys each and every post-game podcast. I had a comment from Crystal. Pistons going to the playoffs. They keep winning, Crystal. Yeah, I agree with you. I think where they're at, where they're competing, and how they're playing, absolutely, I do. I think this is a playoff team for sure. Got a comment from Mr. Wright. These last 4 games from Tobias is what I expected from him the start of the season. So I have a theory with Tobias Harris of why he's been playing better recently. I've always felt that Tobias Harris, throughout his career, has been a rhythm shooter. If he sees one go in, his confidence goes up. And the more he shoots, the more he gets engaged into the game. When, Jaden Ivey was healthy, there'd be times where Tobias would not get the ball for a good 12 to 15 minutes. And like a lot of us would be looking at the box score saying like, we gave Tobias a big contract to come here. Like we were expecting that 17, 18 points a night that, he's kind of averaged throughout his career. Like what's going on? I think what you're seeing now is, Tobias is that number 2 option next to Cade now. Now, Tobias has to produce with Jaden Ivey being out. Tobias is getting those second option looks with Cade Cunningham. And I think that's what you're seeing out of him. And I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise because when Jaden Ivey comes back, if he does come back this season, it depends how the Pistons are in the Eastern Conference playoff standings, because Jaden Ivey could theoretically come back in April if everything goes right and his rehab is good. You're going to get a more confident Tobias Harris, more confident THJ and Malik Beasley, because all those veterans are going to get more opportunities and touches with Jaden Ivey being out with that broken fibia. But I do agree with you. I think a lot of us expected him to be more consistent. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now, Mr. Wright. Appreciate the comment, man. Got a comment from Johnny. I feel bad for Chauncey being celebrated, then beaten by the team celebrating him. And hey, man, it's the nature of the business. It's the nature of the business. Chauncey got a pretty loud standing ovation, but what was funny is Aaron Glenn, Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, got a louder cheer pop from the Lions fans that were at the Detroit Pistons game tonight. There was a lot of Detroit Lions fans and Detroit Lions in the building tonight watching your Detroit Pistons, defeat the Trailblazers tonight. But yeah, it kind of sucks that, the Pistons had to beat him. But at the end of the day, the Blazers are playing better basketball. I think for them that they just need more of a traditional point guard. I think the Scoot Henderson experiment is going to take a few more years. He's a talented player. I just don't think he's ready to, be a lead guard right now. They have two guards in Simons and Sharp that are very talented. That their second round pick tonight, I was really impressed with it. I can't remember his last name, but they have some young, interesting pieces. They have their mix of veterans in DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant. They're very similar to the Pistons. If you kind of look at it, they have young players, they have their mixture of veterans. They have a coach that hasn't really gotten a fair shake of things. I mean, Chauncey got the job. Damian Lillard was still there, and then they trade him. So Chauncey and the Trailblazers have gone through a rebuild. So, Pistons and Blazers are kind of in a similar spot. The Pistons are just, winning more games right now. But it's always good to see Chauncey Billups. And, I mean, he was at the Lions game yesterday. You got a standing ovation there. So, shout out to Chauncey. Got a comment from Chili David. We need a point guard to run the second unit so Sasser can cook as the scorer he is. I mentioned that on Twitter tonight, Chili. When I watch Marcus Sasser, right, I know he's not a point guard. I know he's more of a traditional shooting guard, right? I honestly believe the Pistons are making him be a point guard because they just don't have a backup point guard currently. And that's the roster construction at the end of the day. If they had a veteran point guard, for example, let's just say, I don't know, Malcolm Brogdon or Alonzo Ball were on this team. Yeah, you could have Sasser move in at shooting guard at his natural position. But for right now, until they make a move, Sasser's going to be your lead guard unless, Trajan feels that the new two-way guys that he signed could, step up in that situation. I mean, do you give Donis Jenkins a look at playing some point guard minutes, backup point guard minutes? I don't know. They just signed Ron Harper Jr. On a two-way deal from the Celtics G League affiliate. I think there's a lot to, look at with this team. And I think the common theme with a lot of you guys right now is backup point guard, which I agree with. I think this team does need more backup point guard help, but appreciate the comment, Chili. I do want to get into a couple more comments and questions with you guys. This one comes from Jay Hart. He said, I really think we're looking at a 8-game win streak if they focus and keep hitting shots. Man, I love this team. I want to give Jay Hart credit because the last winning streak that we went on, he called it. And he says, I feel another winning streak coming on. So I'm going to listen to Jay Hart when it does come to winning streaks. But 8 games, I think it's doable, especially with this week. I think your toughest game is going to be Golden State. Steph Curry Like it just depends how to defend them. It depends if Asar Thompson's back. You also have the Raptors and the Nets. Those are all winnable games. They could easily go 4-0 this week, you guys. They really could. They do have a back-to-back this week, which we'll see how their legs are. It seemed like they were a little tired and they weren't ready to play until 8 o'clock tonight. But, hey, you never know. They might go on a win streak. I mean, I don't think they've had a 7-game win streak since the, like, SVG Brandon Jennings era. Like, and that was over 10 years ago, you guys. Like, that was over 10 years ago. Like, it's the 10-year anniversary today of when Stan Van Gundy told the Pistons to form a effing wall. Like 10-year anniversary today. Like that's crazy. The fact that, you know, we're playing better basketball, we're competing in the Eastern Conference. Like this is a really fun basketball team to watch each and every night. I got a comment from Michael. I think we've started off hotter tonight if Asar was playing and starting. I agree. I think Asar would have taken off a lot of stress with their perimeter guards and Denny Avdia. They were just getting into the paint at will, and there was no presence on the perimeter and in the paint whatsoever. I think Asar does a lot of things that they don't show up on the box score. Like I think his help side defense gets kind of overlooked at times, just the way he's so active, you know, moving through screens. But, you know, if Asar was available tonight, I think this game would have been finished a lot sooner than the fourth quarter. Like the Pistons probably would have put them out by the third quarter if Asar was healthy. Jared Goff chance. Yeah. Hey, man. Lions just won their division for the second straight year. Like, let Lions fans, you know, cheer Jared Goff. I'm not going to gatekeep like some people. I'm just not. Is it annoying? Sure. Like when Cade's at the free throw line, like why can't you just chant Cade Cunningham or MVP or something? But I don't mind if Lions fans are chanting Jared Goff when the opposing team is shooting free throws. I think that's kind of distracting. But you know, if the Pistons start winning more games, maybe Pistons fans at games will start chanting Cade Cunningham. I don't know. But hey, man, that's just kind of my take on the whole Jared Goff thing. Like it's annoying, but I'm not even going to get into any of this. Mr. My City, Tim Hardaway Jr. literally had nothing but 26 points, nothing else. Shoot or shoot. Yeah, definitely like a Kobe type stat line, right? Like just give him the ball and let him cook. I love it. Got Ashton the trader in here, 6th seed. Hey, Ashton, they called you crazy, man. They called you crazy. I think it's close, Ashton. I really do. I think we're just one piece away from really just exploding and, you know, putting the Detroit Pistons back on the map. And they have an available roster spot. They have cap space to trade with at the trading deadline. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Got a comment from Thomas, finally forming an identity and have a coaching staff that actually cares about the players and the product on the court. I agree, Thomas. Like JB Bickerstaff, when he came in, his introductory press conference, it was no BS. Like he just said, you know, like I want to make this fun for the young guys. I want to come in, establish a winning culture, establish an environment where these guys want to come to work and to play excited. And I think that's what you're seeing. It's reflecting on the basketball court right now. Like Ron Holland talked with the media today about Fred Vincent and saying like, I've never had a shooting coach in my life. And like, I love working with Fred Vincent. And like Ron Holland shot 41% from 3 in the month of December, the guy that was labeled a non-shooter. So you're so right, Thomas. Like this coaching staff is investing into this young group and they're building confidence. They're learning how to win. Like during this winning streak, if this was last year's team, there's no shot that they win any of these games because they had no confidence. You had a coaching staff that wouldn't even, you know, get a technical foul arguing with the referee. You had a coaching staff that wouldn't challenge anything if they felt that it wasn't a good call. Like JB Bickerstaff has just been such a blessing to the Detroit Pistons and kind of revived this team. I know they're at 36 games in, 18-18, but I think if you're a Piston fan, you're really, really excited with where this team is going because, I mean, if you look at the Vegas lines before the season, you guys, they had us winning 26 games. We got 18 games in January, right? I think they're probably going to shatter that 26 game mark that Vegas had us at under over. You're on pace to win over 40 games this season. Like it's really exciting watching this young team play. But Baron, yeah, this is definitely a surprise. What I'm seeing from the Pistons, it's been fun to watch. Yeah, like I couldn't have said it better myself, man. Like it's been surprising. I thought that the Pistons would be much improved, adding all the veterans like Malik and Tobias and Tim, but I didn't think that they would be this good this fast. And Trajan is probably going to lose his draft pick to the Minnesota Timberwolves if they keep winning games and they keep just competing each and every night. It's honestly, like, if you're a Piston fan at the end of the day, you probably don't want to talk about draft picks in January. You want to look at the Eastern Conference standings and look at trade rumors to see like who could like really take the Detroit Pistons from, let's say they're a play-in team as constructed to maybe a top 5, top 4 seed. Those are the conversations that I'd much rather have with you guys than who's the 13th best prospect. Because I see some people saying like, we're going to lose our draft pick this year. Like, what are we doing? Why are we winning games? Like, we're not doing anything. Like, I think winning games right now is more valuable than a draft pick that's going to be in the late lottery, because you're giving these kids confidence to, grow their game, teaching moments, how to close out games at the end of the day, not just tanking people or, shutting people down to tank to try to get the 5th pick again. That's just where I'm at with it, man. It really is. I want to get to a couple more comments and questions. Jamal Scott, how was Bobby Klitman been looking? He's been doing pretty well in the G League. I will say that. He was available to play tonight. The Pistons did say he was available in case of an injury, or maybe JB wanted to give him playing time. He did not give him playing time. It was a coaching decision, but I think we will see Bobby at some point of the season. Just don't know when, and I expect him to play some power forward minutes. So he's got to fight with Simone Fontecchio for some minutes. I'm so glad I'm not hearing any Sasser slander I've been hearing since last year. Yeah, like I think some people in the community, when they look at Sasser in the way the Pistons play them, I think that's where the slander comes from. Like, I'd much rather see Sasser just kind of be like kind of like how Malik Beasley's playing, right? Like, just be that instant offense off the bench, play him at the 2-guard position, at the point guard position. But yeah, I know Pistons fans get really, really critical. And like some of the tweets that I was seeing tonight, just from people on Twitter, this showed me like how invested that they are with the Detroit Pistons in general. Like, some people were getting on their ass that they were down, over, 20 points to start this first half. And it's like, well, like they're just going to lose, same old Pistons. Like, I don't know why people are invested in this team. And then they come back and it's just like all those negative thoughts went out the window, and they're back on the bandwagon to say, if you want to call, this Detroit Pistons team, a team where, new Pistons fans or casual Pistons fans are going to hop on the bandwagon and be more invested. But it is a complete 180 from last year, Drew Thomas. I do agree with you. I think the way that they're playing right now, I think is very sustainable, because just the way that they've been moving the ball, I thought the ball movement has been really great. I thought there were times tonight where, Jalen Duren made some really nice reads, like the way he was processing plays, running that DHO, offense. It's really, really nice to see just everyone, believing in each other and just playing team basketball. Alan Humphrey, F that draft pick. That's where I'm at too, Alan. Like, F the pick. Like, we have enough young kids. We have our core. We have our mixture of veterans. Like, let's just, play team basketball and try to compete for the playoffs. Let's go get Bruce Brown back. Pistons legend Bruce. I mean, he is available. I don't know what the asking price for him is. I'm sure it would be pretty steep, but would not surprise me if he is traded to a contender. It wouldn't surprise me like whatsoever. Got a comment from Tara G. This is how a team performs when they have a coach who cares. I agree. Like you have a coach in JB Bickerstaff that really cares for these young guys, not just as basketball players, but as human beings. Like a lot of like press releases from media members, from reading articles, you hear that JB Bickerstaff, just as a person, really cares about these guys off the court. Basketball is a game they play and a sport that we love watching, but I think connecting with them on a human level makes them want to play for him even harder. I mean, Gade said that, JB is really fun to play for, and he said it's really easy to play hard for him because of the person that he is. And I don't think you had that last year. Like Monty's a good person, even though, he did take the bag, and obviously it didn't work out, having 14 wins last year, but I don't really think his heart was in it to coach. I honestly think that he just took the money because he couldn't turn it down. I don't think his mind was like fully focused on basketball. And I think any of us, if someone offered us the bag that Tom Gores offered, we probably would take it too. At the end of the day, I know I would, but like JB Bickerstaff is just a breath of fresh air, and I think a lot of us would agree that he's a good basketball coach. I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast though, you guys. Can't wait to see what this team does this week. We'll have multiple podcasts throughout the week, post-game podcast, and then we'll have a long-form podcast this Sunday with my guy Pistons Thoughts, who kind of looks like me identically. It's kind of I call him my twin. But if you guys can smash that like button on your way out, I do appreciate it. I'll see you guys throughout the week. Can't believe we're 500. We're on a 4-game winning streak, man. Like vibes are all-time high here, but appreciate you guys watching. All 150 of you guys watching right now. I will see you guys later. Go Pistons. Peace.